AscendTMS, the world's #1 rated TMS software. If you're responsible for setting up and managing your AscendTMS account and users, this is the training for you. Some topics that will be discussed include organization settings, user and department management, data import, software integrations, setup, and more.
You should be looking at my settings page. Can you see that? And Super Shippers? All right.
All good.
Thank you. Hello there. All right,
Hello.
another lady on the line. I love it. All right. Guys, my name's Maria. For anybody that came in late, I work in support here. I'm going to make sure you get all your questions answered to the best of my ability. And if I can't answer it, I'll get you to the person that can. I have no problem admitting my own faults, but let's get started. We're going to spend most of our time in settings here, going over this and then answering any questions you might have about Ascend. So, of course, I don't know if you guys come from brokerage, if you're an asset company. I might even have some dispatchers on here. It could be anybody joining us today. So bear with me as I kind of try to keep things a little bit vague, but please feel free to ask questions. So I'm going to go through this in no order whatsoever. Let's see what I can do here. We're going to start in company settings. So when you guys first signed up for AscendTMS, if I click on edit your company contact info here, this page may or may not look familiar. So when you signed up, you just needed an email and password. Lots of people bypass this page once they get into Ascend. This is where you're going to want to update your name, address, your MC number, DOT number, whatever that may be, because we use that as well as your logo, and we put them in a nice, clean, generated documents for you. So we do things like your bill of lading, carrier confirmations, customer confirmations, et cetera, et cetera. So we use this info to do that. Also in here, a thing that gets overlooked, or maybe you just didn't know at the time, the freight broker features and the carrier features at the bottom, this toggle can switch between enabled or disabled. It does not hurt anything if you have them both enabled, okay? Of course, you can only disable one, but if you are working with both sides, absolutely leave them both enabled. If you just want to leave them enabled, that's okay as well. Just know that your screens might look a little different. So if I were to disable my freight broker features, if you keep your eyes over here, you'll see that my carrier tab is no longer. When I enable it, I now have my carrier tab. And additionally, the asset tab just above it, it's going to disappear when I disable my carrier features. So of course, there's a little bit more behind the scenes, but again, no harm done if you would like to leave them both on. And like I mentioned, this is an area where you can upload your logo. You want to make sure that you scroll all the way to the bottom and save in the right corner whenever you update this area. Now we do have another link here to upload your company logo. That's just a direct link to do specifically that, okay? Edit your drop-down list. This is kind of a big one. I'm going to take a little bit of time in here. It doesn't look like much of anything when we come in here, but there's actually a lot that we can do and allows for some customization. So in here, we can edit things like commodity. What type of freight are we moving? What's being hauled? What needs to be hauled? Okay, you guys can add new commodities. You can delete existing. Everybody that signs up for Ascend is going to have canned and most commonly used types of things preset in here for you. That does not mean you have to use them, and it does not mean that you can't change them, okay? So if you don't like cash, checks, and currency, you want to change it to something else, you can click right on that cell, and it'll give you the ability to edit that. When you're done, you want to make sure to hit save, okay? It's going to tell me it already exists because, of course, I didn't edit it. The three little lines here, you can click and hold, drag and drop to reorder these if you'd like. The X is, of course, going to delete it. If you want to add new values, whenever you choose add a new value, you're going to see this option in all of the drop-down lists that we'll get through quicker in just a minute. But when you add a new value, please know that it's going to drop an option, an optional new value at the bottom of your list. So right now, my list ends at 19. When I hit add a new value, it's going to title it new value 20 and put it down here in line. Okay, and then I can come in and change it to whatever I like.
Okay.
All right, so what we're doing in here, by the way, just to give you a little more of a what's happening or why are we doing this, all of these things that you guys set up, administrators are only going to have access to these things, certain things in here, right? So you can only access settings. No one else can do that. You have to be an admin to do it. Additionally, you can preset these things for your users. They will have some of their own customizations available, especially on the load management page, so they can make that customized for their eyes and what they prefer, but you are kind of setting them up for success. And with these drop-down lists, what it's referring to, just to show you real quick, I know I'm hopping out of line here, but we're talking about commodity right now. That's the one we were looking at. So we're actually editing what you and your users will have the ability to use when building and booking loads. All right, hopping back here. So let's see if I can get through this. That was commodity. Load status, I am going to take a second in here as well. Now, I don't know if you guys have already joined an operations training, therefore I kind of have to give you a little backstory. My apologies. But again, in here, lots of the functions are the same. The 3 lines is a click and hold to drag and drop so you can reorder. The red X will, of course, delete it. I can edit existing. I can also add a new value. Those things have not changed, okay? I can sort them by name if I prefer for them to be alphabetical. What we're doing for load statuses, however, this one is a little different and a little bit more intricate. If you guys haven't seen already, these columns here, these last 4 columns, active, planning, ready for accounting, and miscellaneous, those correspond with tabs on your load management screen where your operations team is going to be spending most of their time. Active, planning, ready for accounting, miscellaneous. Those 4 tabs, you'll learn all about load management in operations training, but I would be doing you no justice if I didn't explain. So these 4 tabs, what they essentially are is a filter for load statuses. So you guys can choose to customize these things to see only certain load statuses under your active tab. For me, it's in transit, dispatch, and apparently rail. That's one of my guys. That's a new one for me. Those things mean active for me, so that's where I want to see it. You can also choose not to use these if it's too much right now, or if you just don't have a need for it. You can live in all loads, and therefore you would not have to set this up. I just need to teach you where it is and where it exists, so you guys know that you have the ability to do that. So again, once you have the load statuses that you're going to use in there so that they're available for your team, you can categorize them by color. Your users will have access not to this page exactly, but to their own form of customization on their load management, so they can update the colors for themselves as well. You can group them nicely. So when we went in there and I showed you the commodity drop down, we have our things grouped, and it essentially gives it a title, a little bold header, and then they sit underneath it. So you can see here, I group them with the same name as corresponding tab. That's just a me thing. You don't have to do that. You can choose to not group them at all, and then they will just show up in a list exactly how they are here, whether you sort them by name and it's alphabetical, or if it goes out of alphabetical like mine does, that's fine. It'll just show up in that list. But the bigger thing here is if you want to set up your tabs, this is important, okay? So for me, like I mentioned, my active is in transit and dispatched. So I have those checked off under my active. That way, whenever I go in there, I'll see all the loads with that status, and so on and so forth. So you guys can really customize this. Now you can put them under multiple tabs, okay? So they can be under all 4 if you want. Now, as I'm doing this, by the way, it is live making changes. So my guys right now are going to see some changes, but there's no harm in it being under all 4 other than it kind of defeats the purpose of categorization. But you can do both, okay? There's no right or wrong here. It's just there as a tool for you. Okay, long-winded. Pay items. This one requires a little as well, but similar functions. Adding a new value is going to drop it at the bottom. The pay items here that we're working on are going to give you and your team the options to select them as line item descriptions. Okay, so essentially I have detention as a line item description that I use as an accessorial all the time. But for me and my Super Shippers account, our detention doesn't have a default rate. So for me, all my detention line says is just that, the value of its name. Therefore, anybody can choose detention from their dropdown when assigning an income or an expense line item, and they can manually put in whatever rate that they would like. You can also set up things with a default rate. What a lot of people don't realize is default rates, you can do negatives, you can do percentages. It's really a matter of what are you trying to accomplish, and playing around with the numbers accordingly. All right, I'm sorry, I'm gonna take a quick pause because I saw a lot of people came in after I started. Guys, just so you know, my name's Maria. Please feel free to use the Q&A or the chat button to send me messages if you have any questions, or if you are able to unmute yourself and ask, please feel free. We're talking about your drop-down lists and your settings right now, and we're working on pay items. So again, you guys can have default rates or not have default rates. This first one I like to use as an example. It's a service/quick pay fee, essentially a factoring fee that we were asked, how would I charge that to my customer? How would I set that up? I need to charge a 4% fee whenever they have this quick pay option. So we set it up as a negative 0.04 default rate, which in essence will retract 4% of what they are getting paid. And it will do that whenever we choose that line item. So the other things you can do in here are setting up default quantities. The two things that we can currently use for a default quantity are extra stops. So right now we have ours set up for $75 extra stops. And the default quantity is extra stops. What does that mean? That means that if I have a load that has a pick and drop, and in between the pick and drop, it has 4 additional stops on it. When I assign the extra stops line item here to that load, it's going to put in the default rate of $75. The default quantity will automatically say 4 because I have 4 in between my pick and my drop, and it knows to disclude those. Same thing with load mileage. If you have a mileage item, so maybe you pay $2.30 a mile, okay? You can default quantity that one to load mileage. It will pull the load mileage from your edit stops page automatically. All right, so there's little things in there. You're gonna see lots of did you knows as well as question marks. Anywhere you see a little note or your icon, your mouse icon changes, or you get a hover, that's our way of kind of giving you insider tips, okay? I'm not gonna spend much time on the truck lengths, status, or type, because as you can see, they are all very similar. The functions are still the same. Adding a new value, I can sort it by name, I can reorder it, delete it, etc. Okay? So that was pay items. That was a lot of info though at first, but the load statuses. Is everybody still with me? Any questions? All right, I'm gonna take silence. All right, thank you. I was gonna take silence as a no. I appreciate that. Moving on, so we talked about uploading your logo. If you guys didn't already know, you can customize your default currency, how you see the currency listed, how it's displayed, the placement, also how you display your weight, distance, and temperatures in here. All right, those can be edited and changed. We have an option here that says configure your alerts. So alerts, notifiers, notifications, there's many different versions of this, and there's different areas of Ascend which will have different types of alerts, if that made any sense. What this one is doing, configure your alerts here in your company settings. It will allow you to set up 2 types of alerts in here. Those are for EDI and your the Ascend portal. So what are those 2 things? EDI, for those of you that may not know what that means, is electronic data interchange. Essentially, if you have a trading partner that wants to tender you loads electronically, we can connect you to them via EDI. It's a process that they are most likely set up with, and they'll usually be the ones to request it. If that sounds like remotely something you want more info on or something that you have questions about, please let me know. I'll get you that info. So that if we did connect you with one of your trading partners, you would want to set up your alerts. Additionally, the Ascend portal. We're going to talk about it here very briefly. It's in your settings. It could be its own training, but I'm happy to stay on and talk about it. Essentially, it's a carrier portal by design. We created a carrier portal because that's what we had the most requests for first. Hopefully, very soon we'll see a driver portal and customer portal rolling out. But if you guys are going to use the Ascend portal, you have the option, and we strongly advise that you set up alerts accordingly for it. Now, carriers, if I have any carriers on here, please don't be discouraged. There is a way you guys can utilize that portal as is, and I'd be happy to show you and talk to you about that. So don't just turn off because I said it's a carrier portal. But yes, configure your alerts. Let's say you want to set up your portal alerts, okay? And I'm teaching you how to set something up before really knowing what it is, but hopefully this isn't too confusing. If you needed to set up those alerts, you can just create a description of whatever you'd like to call it. In your alert on, you'll see you have EDI options, 3 options for EDI, and you also have 3 options for your portal. If you're using the portal, my suggestion is to set up all 3 of them. You do not want to miss an update. It literally automates almost all of your dispatching, and it will change your life. It's awesome. I truly love it and suggest everybody look at it. But if you don't set up your alerts, you're missing a huge piece of it. So what's great about these alerts, once I set one, and let's say I want to set it for myself, not only can the alert option here, okay, that's talking about your Ascend alerts. If you can see where my mouse is, it's kind of grayed out now, but my little message bubble, I have 1 message. That's in Ascend. That doesn't create a chime, and I'm personally I need noise. That's my personal. So what I love about these alerts is it allows you to set them to email, because just like you, I imagine, we're not sitting in front of our computers every day, but almost everybody carries their phone. And I know me, I have multiple chimes on my emails. So I like that this will automatically tell me everything that's happening in my portal as the carriers update their info. And it comes straight to my email. So that's really cool. Same thing with EDI. You can do both alerts. Okay. So I am going to kind of switch over here. I will talk to you about automated workflow engine in just a second, but because we were just discussing the portal, let me hop over here for 1 second. If you guys are interested in the portal, here is my best suggestion to you. In our nice description up here at the very end, it says, please visit our knowledge base. If you click on this, it's going to bring you into our knowledge base, and it's bringing you to the how-to videos for getting it set up. I advise, if you're remotely interested, even if you're a carrier, jump over to the right and click on See How Ascend Portal Can Automate Your Everyday Tasks. Reason being, it's better than any description I could ever give you, because my partner Steve plays the broker in AscendTMS, and I play the carrier in the portal, and we take turns sharing our screen. So you can truly see exactly what this thing can offer you. And it really is awesome. It will automate so much. You do not have to pick up the phone and make 1 check call. You really don't if you're utilizing this. In here real briefly, because this, like I said, could be in its own training, but here you've got some carrier permission and tender settings. We make these things optional. Right now, one of our larger accounts is actually a shipper using the carrier portal, Restaurant Depot, and they are a little bit unique. So they allow their carriers to schedule their own appointment times. All right, so having these checked off is giving your carrier permission to schedule your dates and times and reorder their stops. I personally don't suggest that. Obviously, the ability is there because somebody does need it, but please keep that in mind that you are reading these things. Now, you can set up things like expiration settings. So if I tender a load to a carrier and they have not accepted within 2 hours, then it's going to automatically expire, means they don't have access to it in their tendered loads anymore, and it would have to be retendered to them. Additionally, I'll get a little alert that says, hey, they didn't accept the tender, it's now getting switched to, you need to rebook a carrier. Down here even further, we can set up exactly what we want our load statuses to do when things happen. So when I tender a load to a carrier, my load status will change. When it's accepted, rejected, etc. The fun stuff really comes in at the bottom, all of the dispatching. So if you've got dispatchers making check calls for hours out of their day, you might want to have them invest 30 minutes to watch that webinar and see if this would help them. Because your carriers in the portal, which by the way, they don't have to download anything. There's no apps needed. It can be used by any device through any website. I've tested and triple tested because I was so adamant with this one. So all they have to do is just go to portal.ascendtms.com once you've linked them. And they have an area to update their truck statuses. These are all of the options that they have. It's quite long, but you can set up just the main ones that you use or will require them to use. And what you're doing is I'm saying when a carrier changes to at pickup location, I want my Ascend load status to change to this and my truck status to change to that. And I can map these for every update. If you combine the Ascend portal with where we're going to segue to, which is automated workflow engine, you essentially have AscendTMS as your new dispatcher. So there's lots of other things down here that we can do. And again, even as we move into the automated workflow, I'm only going to hit on a couple of them. Not because I don't want to take the time to teach you, but because I want to keep time as a trigger here. I only have you for so long, and I'm happy to go through this with anybody who would like. So again, that was the portal. That's just one thing you can do. Brokers, I suggest watching that video. Carriers, it's worth a watch, and if you want to utilize it as a driver portal, let me know because it will automate a lot. They have places to also upload their documents and get documents. It literally tenders everything they need, and they can send things directly to your Ascend, which is really nice. Additionally to the portal, you've got another whole system here, this automated workflow engine, if you will. This will set up a lot of automations as well, and especially load status and truck status changes, which when you set up your customizations of all your tabs there and you have your load statuses being filtered to different tabs, you'll start to see how all of this combined can really, really help you. So the automated workflow, we can set up things like, the first one is referring to check calls. So I'm going to skip over that one for a minute and go down to one that is a little more point blank. This third option, prevent a carrier from being assigned to a load if, and you have some options. So if their insurance has not been entered, I don't want them to be assigned to a load. Now, just what I did there, selecting from this dropdown, if I moved away right now, that rule is not set, okay? Until I actually hit save, it's not going to be live. As soon as I hit save, however, that rule becomes live in my system for all of my users. So if I were to save this, any one of my guys trying to put a carrier on that didn't have insurance is going to get a message that says, your admin has stopped you from doing this because of X, Y, Z. Please, make the necessary changes or speak to your admin, something along those lines. So that's just one thing we can do. Additionally, if you have a rule set up and you no longer want it to be active, just hitting your X does not delete it. You have to hit the save button, and it will tell you that here, but I think a lot of people miss, oh, well, I thought it did. Sorry about that. Apparently I made something up. Okay, so that's just one. What's another thing we can do? We can actually prevent load statuses from being changed based on financials. Reason you might use that, I might prevent a load status from being set to be billed if the income is, I don't know, if it's less than $1. What does that mean? That means I want to stop somebody from changing a delivered load to be billed if there's not an income line item there for more than $1. So that is a very strange use case, but what I'm essentially trying to do is limit user error. I don't want this going to be billed status and then getting sent to accounting if there's not actually an income line item on it. But as you can see, there's different options, equal to, less than, greater than, etc. And there's several of these, okay? Lots that will update your load status, truck status, lots of things that you can do here. And we're adding to this all the time. A great thing about Ascend is this help feedback area. If you guys have suggestions, even if it's just for this automated workflow or anywhere about Ascend, throw it in the feedback bucket and we take it from there. We listen to all those requests. So hopefully that gave you kind of an overview. I didn't give you the basics. What the workflow engine is essentially business rules. So if you've ever heard the statement, if this, then that, that's what this is. So if you read it out and fill in your drop downs accordingly, it will start to make some sense. We are here to help if you want to get something set up, but you're not able to, or you have questions about it, please call us. Okay, company settings. Whew. All right, I can sum up a couple of these. Report and document settings. This one is easy to sum up because essentially, no matter which one I click on, they're giving me the same ability. So for my carrier confirmation documents, invoice, customer confirmation, or bill of lading, I can click in here and update my terms and conditions or my footers for these documents that we automatically generate for you, okay? So you can do that for each one of the documents that we set up. The load management screen, if you guys are brand new, your system comes with some sample data, usually in red text. If it's driving you nuts or if you're done with it, your thing here is gonna say hide sample data, click on it, sample data will go away. Additionally, if you want it back, you can click on it again and it will come back. Customize your load management screens. Okay, this should look somewhat familiar. I know you guys are new, but this should look familiar because we looked at it already and edit your drop-down list. It's another area where you can specifically look at your load statuses and set those up in the tabs accordingly. So you can get to it in more than one place. Editing your starting load number. We get this question every once in a while. Yes, you can edit your starting load number. You can't do a manual add for each load number. The way Ascend works is we're always ascending. So whatever you start with, you're always going up from there. Therefore, when you go to edit, it's going to tell you can't go backwards in time. It's going to need to be greater than your next available load number. But if you guys are trying to match an old system or work with another number that doesn't jive with Ascend's, the thing to do here is to use the reference and ID column, or field rather, inside your loads. It's on your load basics page. It's one of the first things you see, this reference ID number column. It shows up real nice and clean on the documents. Your info on the upper left and the reference and ID and all that stuff is in the upper right, very nice and clean. It's also searchable. So if your old system, let's say my load right here that I'm looking at is 182.611. So if my old system was 55524, I could put it in here. And next time somebody calls me and references that number, if I can remember what I did, there we go. I can search for it quickly. So it's a searchable field as well as it shows up clean on the documents. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, data import. This is a good summation one. If you guys have a list, whether from a TMS you were previously using or just a list that you've created in Excel or a Google Sheet, okay, and you want to get a list of customers, carriers, locations, load history in your system, click on the option accordingly, download the template document, and then you're going to take your file, and you have a choice. You can either take your file and, cut and paste the columns into the template and then re-upload the template, or you can delete the information or reorder the information on your list to mimic the template and re-upload. If you guys have questions or need assistance with that, we are always here to help. I'm going to skip user. Actually, no, let's go through this. Okay. This is some important stuff. User and branch department management. Add or edit your users. This is where we're going to start. Mine is super colorful. All right. So if you guys are in trial with us for those 30 days, you're trying out Premium Ascend for 30 days, no risk, no money, no nothing. You can sign up as many users as you would like that may or may not touch Ascend. If you want their opinion on it in those 30 days, sign them up. All right. Now, Ascend is billed. Our monthly subscription is $69 per month per user. So please keep that in mind before upgrading. However, if you want their opinion, absolutely let them test it out in that 30 days. It's completely free no matter how many users are in there. When you guys go to add a new user, you're going to come in here. You'll put in their name, their email address. All right. Sorry, cached data. Contact number for them, a password if they've specified one to use, or if you're going to give them one and then they can change it, you'll have to edit it later. All right. The two things that we are going to talk about in detail are going to be the permission groups and the branches and departments. Whenever adding a user, you can specify what permissions they have. Now, if you guys are working with canned data, you're going to have 3, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody gets administrator, accounting, and standard. Okay, administrator is stuck. We're going to head over there. We'll look at it in just a minute. But you'll set them up accordingly and save. Okay, and anytime you need to, you can select them by clicking on the row. You can edit, remove the user. You can also assign user roles and commission overrides from this page, as well as you can get over to branches and departments from this page. You're going to have lots of options to move around Ascend and get to the same area with different buttons. Just so you know, you're not going crazy. We have them in multiple places. All right, so let's talk about permissions first, because I think this is more incumbent of everyone. Everyone's going to need permissions versus branches. That's kind of, you may or may not use them. So we'll talk about permissions first. Now, my system has more than just your admin, accounting, and standard, because you can set up your own permissions. This list is quite lengthy. We have very, what is the word? Granular permissions. Maybe that's what I was looking for. And what we do here is we separate them out by area or section in Ascend, if you will. So the first one, and the most lengthy of them, being the loads area, okay, allowing them to create a load, to cancel a load, archiving. Some of the things that we get asked to not see often, the financials, to view the financials tab and the income expense columns in load management. If you just have maybe a data import person or a dispatcher who doesn't have anything to do with the money and you don't want them to see that, all right, this might be something that you want to look at. So when I say very granular, it is, and it's very specific. So if you have any questions while reading through these, please don't hesitate. I never get upset answering these questions, and there's a lot to look at. So as you scroll down, you'll see there's an area for customers. You might allow people to create a new customer, but not to update an existing, or maybe you don't want somebody to be able to delete them. Obviously, changing a customer's credit limit, credit hold settings, payment terms, those are very important permissions that you don't want everybody using. So you can see as you go down this list, you can pick and choose. Now, like I mentioned, admin is locked because you have access to literally everything. Accounting, mine unfortunately is no longer in its state that you were given when you first signed up. We've changed these and tested it, and we play with these often. So mine might look a little different, but what I want to teach you is how to set up your own permissions groups. So you can choose to rename this if you don't want it to stay as accounting. Maybe you only need one other permission group. You're going to utilize what accounting is and change it. You can change the name if you'd like, and just work with admin, whatever you change this to, and standard. That's fine. If you have the need for more permission groups, maybe you have somebody who does data import, but when your accountants are out, they'll fill in, putting in, receiving bills or, carrier invoices, things like that. So maybe they need the ability to get into one area of accounting. So you have a couple options. You can start to create custom permission groups. You can do them to be used for one person, multiple people. You can combine permission groups. There's a lot of different things you can do. But in that statement of maybe this person is standard for the most part, but they fill in when needed in accounting. So I'm going to get rid of this one real quick because I created that group. All right. So if that were me and I'm looking down here for standard, let me just make sure before I make myself. All right, so let's take away standard permission to accounting, which I do believe it comes canned that they do not have access. All right, so what I'll do here is I'm gonna add a new permission group. I can give it a name first and foremost. So for me, I'm gonna call it Standard Plus. Now I have an option. I can either start from scratch, which will give me a completely blank list and I can check off whichever ones I want, or I can copy from an existing. So what I'll do is I'll copy standards, save that group. It will throw it here on the right for me, and I will come down and make sure that all the permissions are in line with what I want, and then I can add, we'll give them access to invoices and bills, and exporting to QuickBooks. But I don't want them to see commissions management, driver pay. They don't need to see my full, well, ARAP, it's kind of the same thing. All right, so now I have this permission and I have the ability to add that to somebody if I want. And it can even be added for only a brief period of time. So now that we've talked about permissions, let's look at this user list again. So let's say here is Wendy. Okay, Wendy is one of my data import people, so she has standard permissions. Now, my accountant, of course, forgive me, the guys and I all we play with these and change them all the time, so this kind of looks a little chaotic, but let's stay down here for a minute. Let's say Wendy's gonna help out with the accounting portion of it, just to deal with the invoices and bills and get them exported, but not to touch my driver pay. So that permission we specifically set up. What I can do is I can come in here, edit her user, and I can give her standard plus if I can click on the right one. And then I can revoke that permission if I ever wanted to. So if she only has it temporarily for this week, then I can come in and revoke that permission later. Or I can leave it in there, so if she ever needs to, she can help out in accounting. There are other combinations and use cases for permissions and permission groups, and every company is going to have their own questions and reasonings for setting them up. So please don't be afraid to ask, okay? I hope that overview kind of gave you one example, because now I have to segue into branches. So before you go on information overload, how's everybody doing? Any questions on permissions so far or anything I've talked about? Okay, silence is good, I think. All right, so I can get to branches and departments from here. I can also, from my main settings page, I can add or edit branches and departments right below my add or edit users. All right, what is a branch department? Why would I use it? Two of the most common use cases. I have hubs in different locations. Like for us, we have Boston, Houston, there's another one somewhere, okay? And I want to be able to accurately track how profitable each location is, or something like that. Another use case, I am a broker and I need my agents for their loads to be separate, their customers to be separate, things like that. Separating data, keeping it contained to one or certain users, that's another reason to use branches. There are more than just those two use cases, okay? I'm just trying to give you the most common. So if you fall into either one of those, hopefully this is helpful. So what you will do is set up branches. So we'll talk about, let's go with the agent mentality for a minute. All right, so I apparently have more than one branch set up. Let's get that out of there. I have my own branch titled Maria. I can tell you, I already know that if we go back to look at the users, several people have assigned themselves to my branch without asking. But it's supposed to be the place for me to keep my loads and my customers separate, which is a very common thing we get in brokers. So what you can do is you can title them the agent's name or whatever you'd like. You're going to add a new branch first. That needs to kick it off. Okay, give it a branch or department name if it is a department or a hub for you. The description is optional if you'd like to have it there, and then you'll save, and you'll do that for however many agents or however many hubs or for however many branches you need. The other thing, once we get those all set up, that's super important down here at the bottom is choosing our default branch or department selections. So you have two choices, shared or user choice. Before I go into that, if you guys are never going to use branches, okay, you might not know it, but behind the scenes, everyone has the default branch. Shared has the shared branch. Sorry. It's a default. It's always there, whether you use branches or not. That's what your default is. When you start to add branches, you then are going to see that shared exists. It exists for a reason. It can't be deleted. Okay, you can rename it. I see a lot of people do it their company name, like I could call it Super Shippers Main if I needed, and multiple agents were gonna help out with something, or if it was something for multiple people to touch. Okay, the other reason that you might use it is, let's say I'm an agent, I'm going away and I've got a load that isn't finishing until I'll be out of the office. So I'm going to throw it in shared so that my team can finish up the end of it that they're willing to do for me. Now, because of that, we have some selections to make that causes what is your default. Okay. So whenever you add a new customer, a new carrier, or a location, if you're not using branches, you'll never get asked. If you are using branches, you're going to get a pop-up. Which branch or department do you want to add them to? If you choose customer selection. So let me get back here. Okay. For customers, we do user choice so that you get that pop-up. It says, which branch do you want? And in that drop-down, I will only see the branches I'm assigned to. And that will be for everybody across the board, everybody that clicks add a new customer. Or add a new carrier. It will always ask. But for locations, we have ours set to shared because essentially it's just a location where we're picking up or dropping off. It does not mean much to us as a company. So when you go to add a new location, you don't get that pop-up. It's always going to be in the shared branch. Now, hopefully that gives you a kind of understanding of the difference, but you are going to want to make a choice. So if you're trying to keep your customers separate, you're going to want to do user choice. We also see it common to have the carrier as user choice, but it's less common than the customer. And locations, as I mentioned, it's very common for those to remain shared because they are just locations. Once you've got your default selection set and your branches set up, and by the way, it doesn't ask you what your default selection is for loads when you're building a load, because it's going to automatically ask every time you build a load if you have branches. All right, so if you don't have branches and you go to build a load, it'll just take you in and you'll be done. If you have branches, that'll be the first thing it asks you. And my drop down is pretty clean. I've only got a couple. I've got 6 branches here assigned to myself. Okay, so that one's not a question. It's just an always if you have branches set up. Now, if we go back and we look at the user list, here's me. I know it's a lot of colors, but there's my 6 branches. You can kind of see who has what branch, but the colors really throw me off. So to give you one more look at what another view, again, you'll learn a lot of this in operations, okay? But if I wanted to look at quickly what in my load management, what's live in my system right now for my Boston hub, I can change my branches. Apparently nothing. Boston's pretty quiet. Let's see, they've got some planning things going on. But if I switch to my branch, I can tell you it's non-existent. I've got nothing in there. My shared sure does have a lot more anyways. Again, test system, but I can switch between branches in here. I can do the same thing in my customers list or my carriers. They all have a branch column. So you can see here, if I want to just look at my customers list, there you go. Okay. Just different visuals. If you guys want to research a little bit more about branches or see some more use cases, there's a really great article set up here. It's going to take you to it if you click on this option. It helped me a lot when I was trying to understand that. So we talked about branches, permissions, roles is going to be the last thing to sum up here. Does anybody have questions about branches before I move on to roles? Okay. If you guys are working with roles, they can be commissionable or non-commissionable. So let's say I don't have any brokers on here, which I doubt, but let's say I have no brokers on here. And so I'm talking to companies, let's say, that don't have commissionable roles, but everybody does have a role within your company, one of them being dispatchers. Another thing you'll learn in operations is about your My Loads tab. All right, the My Loads tab, and now I have to change that up here. Ooh, I don't have a single thing. I'm sorry, that was a poor visual. Let me see. Let me add myself. Hold on. What the My Loads tab is doing is filtering everything that you have a role assigned to. Okay, whether that role is commissionable or not. So your operations team can, at any point during their day, click on their My Loads tab and look at every load, regardless of its status, that they have an assigned role to. So roles play a big role, especially in their day, right? Because everybody likes to hyper focus on their stuff. So setting those up is going to be first thing. You have to have them in there in order to use them. Additionally, if you guys, I'm sure I've got some brokers on here that need to set commissionable roles. So whether you're commissionable or non, you're coming to add or edit roles. We have a lot of things set up in here, but let's look at this. We'll just add one together. We're going to add a new role, and the first thing it'll ask us is what's the title. So we'll say dispatcher. The role description is optional again. And now I'm going to make my selection. If it's non-commissionable, I will leave it as is and I can save this. If it is a commissionable role, let's say it was a sales agent role, I could switch it to commissionable. Choose if it's percent of gross profit, percent of gross revenue, or a flat rate per load. Enter the default commission rate and save. All right, so we're going to put in all of our roles first that may be used. You can always come in here, you can edit or disable these roles if you stop using them, all right? Get them all set up first. Now, if you have agents or dispatchers or anyone that has a role that can coincide with an entity, what the heck did I just say? If I get commission every time a customer is booked on a load, whether I do the booking or not, all right, I can set up a commission override or a user role override rather to automatically have that assigned versus me going in and setting it. So if we don't have assignments, those automatic assignments like I was just talking about, you will have to go to your shortcuts menu or inside the load and load actions, and you will assign or manage your load role, assign the role to the user, and move on from there. Okay. If you fall into what I mentioned before, where every time a customer or carrier gets added to a load, I get, or this person gets a commissionable role or an assignment period. Maybe your dispatcher handles everybody ABC through CDE or something like that. I'm awful at coming up with stuff on the fly, guys. But if they can be attached to an entity, okay, come in and set it up to be automatic. They will love you for it. So what we do in here is we're going to do assign user role commission override, but let me show you what it'll look like. So both of these cases here, both the carrier case for Steve and the customer, essentially we set this up so every time Two Boys Transport is added as the carrier on a load, as soon as it gets added to a load, Steve gets assigned his commission, his percent of gross profit, whatever that is, automatically. Same thing with the customer, okay? And you can even do it with a location. So you'll choose assign commission or user role commission override, select the user. So we'll look at myself. And then you're gonna choose what entity is it attached to. So is it a customer? Maybe it's Coca-Cola. My customer in here, if I can find it, there we go. All right, what is my role? So I'll be the sales agent then. It is a commissionable role. Percent of gross profit. And as I'm adding these things in, before you hit save, read this through. So this says when Coca-Cola, the customer, is added to a load, Maria Giarusso will automatically be added with the role assignment sales agent. The commissionable rate will be set to 10% of gross profit. So as soon as I sign this, as soon as I save this, that's automatic every time Coca-Cola gets saved. Hopefully that made sense to you. I'm not gonna actually save that one. All right, let's see what else. Premium features and billing details, and then we're done. Holy moly. All right. Everybody has the question, what's the difference between AscendTMS Basic and AscendTMS Premium? It is a fantastic question. Come over here to Premium Features and Billing Details, click on Adjust Company Plan and Available Features, and then you're gonna hit Show if it's not automatically open there for you, okay? This will break it down. Essentially, a lot of stuff is premium, and I'm telling you, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. You guys have 30 days to try that out. So if you don't get a chance, or if you're thinking you're missing something, like you're in day 20 of your trial and you're like, all right, she said there's all this stuff, but it's not looking too exciting. Call me. I'll be glad to point out all the fun stuff that you might have missed, okay? But a lot of our integrations, if you guys need accounting management, that's premium, but it breaks everything down here for you so you can accurately make the decision. If you're ever curious, you can always let your account downgrade to basic, try the features. As soon as you click on something that's premium, it will tell you you don't have access to that. You would need to upgrade to premium, okay? Public load board settings. This one's super important. I want to take a minute. Hopefully I still have some people on with me. If you guys have, let's go into AdderEdit public load board settings. So if you guys already have memberships with CH Robinson, Truck Stop, DAT is a perfect example. All right. If you've already come in here to AdderEdit your public load boards and you've come into DAT and you've put in your login and password, and now you're trying to post or search, you've probably received some errors. Reason being, well, that is if you're using your DAT login that you use when you're logging into DAT's site, you will encounter some errors. Reason being, you need to give this 1-800 number a call and tell them to turn on your connections flag. Okay, the rest of this note, you can read it if you choose. Lots of people choose not to, but I'm pointing out the one thing that is super important. They're really good about it, guys. It's an electronic figurative switch, if you will, or a flag, okay? But your login is not gonna be the same as your login to their site. Okay, they're gonna give you something else. It's not gonna be your email address. Okay, so getting these things set up is important. So we're integrated with a lot of load boards, some for searching, some for posting, and some for both. CH Robinson, Truck Stop, and DAT here at the top, those three, we are integrated with both searching and posting, okay? Each one of these have a little area where you can click to initiate the qualification process. With Truck Stop, if you hover over that, we give you a little email address there. You need an integration ID, so just shoot them an email and request that. DAT, I mentioned the note here for you. All right, so those three are both searching and posting. We have one more that is a double searching and posting right now. That would be Cargo Chief, also known as C4. This is available for searching and posting. I'm coming down here. I'm not trying to name drop them more than any other, but I know that I get a lot of brokers on my training, and I want to drop this hint in here for you. A lot of these sites, including Cargo Chief, will allow you to sign up for a free account. I'm suggesting this to all of my brokers because of the next note I'm going to tell my carriers. Carriers, you do not need to sign up for a free account. As an AscendTMS carrier, you're automatically connected to C4, Cargo Chiefs Network. So brokers, hint, hint, wink, wink, all of the thousands of AscendTMS carriers can search the load boards, which I'm sure they do daily, and anything you've got posted to C4, which by the way, you get a free account now. Anything you've got posted, you know without a shadow of a doubt, at the very least, every AscendTMS carrier is going to see it. So that is good news there. We are going to be integrating with more load boards hopefully soon, and more for searching. We're going to enhance a lot of these integrations, but those 4 are for searching. Another note real quick on Cargo Chief, they have what's called a booking assistant. So again, brokers, if you sign up for that free thing, check out their booking assistant option. It posts it not only to their load board, but then they take an extra step and they take your criteria of your posting, and then they shoot out an email. They blast the most 50 or the best matched 50 carriers, and then they do a second blast and things like that. And there's a bidding option. So any one of my carriers searching Cargo Chief that sees a load from you guys has a button that they can bid on that load electronically. Don't even have to call you. So pretty cool stuff there. Scrolling back up here, Trucker Path 123 load board. Guys, take a look at these notes real quick. You guys can sign up for free accounts for a lot of these. Trucker Path 123. These are all for posting right now. Next load is for posting. Post everywhere. You can't sign up for a free account, but you do get a special rate. And then I skipped Smart Capacity because this is kind of a twofer, if you will. If you guys are familiar at all with Trucker Tools, not technically a load board, so it's kind of out of sorts here, but it exists in here for right now. It is labeled Smart Capacity by Trucker Tools. However, they have 2 products. Smart Capacity, which is similar to Cargo Chief's booking assistant. It has additional options and features. They also have a product called Load Track. All right. You can utilize this area right here to integrate with either. So if you are interested in signing up with their Load Track option, but you think you have to go the step above and get Smart Capacity, which is a little more expensive if I'm not mistaken, you do not have to have Smart Capacity. You can integrate with just Load Track. You want the ins, you want the know-how, call Maria, she'll tell you the truth. Okay, that was load boards. Let me caution everybody as an admin on here, guys, seeing as you guys are the only ones that have access to settings, setting up your load board settings is going to be especially important. Now, if you're a company that you have a main login or a main credentials to a load board, but your users have their own user specific, they're going to go up into their user settings and to the public load board settings here. But it is different. It looks almost identical, but this is user specific. So if you fall into that, where you have users with their own specific logins, please give us a call. Let us help guide you through it if you are confused in the slightest. But yes, user specific ones are going to be up here. Your main settings, your main login credentials are going to go in here. Hopefully that didn't make it more confusing. Factoring settings. So we are integrated with Triumph Business Capital as well as Phoenix Capital Group right now for factoring companies. Yes, I did say right now because hint, hint, we've got more coming. I can't name drop until it's signed on the dotted line, but I'm super excited. Some big names will be joining us. More big names will be joining us soon. So that's exciting stuff. Now, if you guys are working with a factoring company who is not Triumph or Phoenix Capital Group, you can either drop a little note in the help feedback and say, I want to integrate my factoring company XYZ Factoring, and let us respond to you and let you know that either it's in plans or it's coming or we're talking about it. If we're not talking about it, if it's not coming, we'll start requesting it and we'll keep reaching out to our team and keep digging through there. Now, please don't get discouraged. Just because we're not integrated with your factoring company does not mean you can't use Ascend. There is a very easy solution that I will teach you all about on Thursday's accounting training to factor in a matter of, it's technically 5 steps, so 5 mouse clicks, but I can do it in less time than I can say 1, 2, 3. So it's super easy. So I'd be happy to teach you all about that. So please join me in accounting on Thursdays. Okay, a couple more things. I'm almost done, I promise. Carrier payment settings. Triumph Business Capital. They also have this really cool thing called Triumph Pay. So brokers, freight forwarders, you guys, if you guys want, if you have a need for this, give them a call and ask them about Triumph Pay. Essentially, this is a very simplistic version of what they do, okay, coming from me. Essentially, they're extending you a line of credit to pay your carriers. So when you need them to, they'll pay the carrier and then you can pay them back. Really helps with quick pay and keeping things up. This world has kind of gone crazy. So that might be a good avenue to look at. Load tracking settings. Okay, we're integrated with Keep Trucking. So if you're using their ELDs and you want to start tracking your trucks, our phase 1 as far as tracking integration is set. We've got more to come out later, I believe, with Keep Trucking. We're also integrated with ForkHeights. So if you or your customer even wants to start plugging you in there, definitely with ForkHeights specifically, look at that article. Both of these articles are very specific. They break it down for you in step-by-steps with pictures. But if you ever have questions, call us. If you're looking to integrate with anybody else, help and feedback. I'm going to keep plugging it. I'm going to keep saying it. We talked about the portal. Holy crap, am I done talking yet? I think so. All right, guys. All right, I did it in about an hour. That's not too bad. I hope I didn't keep you too long. I'm going to stay with you as long as you'd like and open the floor to you. So I'm zipping it. Any questions, guys? Questions, comments, concerns? Anybody have anything for me?
Oh, real quick.
Yes. Okay, can you give me just 1 second because I did see somebody leave already, and before anybody does sign out, sorry I interrupted you. Let me just leave them with the support number if you guys do need to leave. If you ever want or have a question, call anytime. Our number is area code 813-681-5000. You're going to use option 2 for premium support. All right, I'm sorry I interrupted you, Doll. What was your question?
Okay, if the loads are already entered and you go and create a user role, that wouldn't go back. It basically would start the day you entered that role. So I'd have to go back and update all the other loads. Like if I...
Yeah, so if you're trying to back, right, yes, you are.
I was making sure.
Yeah, you're correct. If you have a lot of work on your hands, it might be worth you and I having a separate phone call. Maybe I can help. I do have a bulk actions tool. I've never been asked to use it as far as roles, but I might be able to offer some assistance so you don't spend hours going backwards in time if it's that big of a project. Please feel free to reach out to me.
I was just making sure. It's not that big.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Then but I am still here if you need some help. But yes, you're correct. I would go back and make sure because if you've added the role after the fact, it triggers when actually adding the entity. So you could either remove the customer and add them back or just manually assign the role.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I see a question coming in on my chat. Do we have a mobile app? Awesome question. So Ascend doesn't have an app right this second. It's something that we are definitely talking about. I don't know the status of it, to be quite honest with you. I'm sure it's something we want to do moving down the road. However, the bonus with Ascend is you don't really need one. You can use it from any device as long as you have internet. You just need to go to AscendTMS.com. If there was a specific reason you were wanting an app, I would love to discuss that further with you. Maybe you're not seeing something on your phone that you'd like to see it in a little different format. Maybe I can help. The suggestion is always to use Google Chrome with AscendTMS, by the way. We do all of our developing in there, all of our updating, enhancing, our releases, everything's done in there. So we always suggest that is the best web browser to use when using Ascend. So if you are like me and you have an iPhone, I just downloaded Chrome on my phone and I prefer it that way. Hopefully that helps. I know it is a little different, like Safari is kind of funny, but You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions? All right. Well, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate your time today. I hope I didn't keep you too long or rambled too awful much. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're safe and staying healthy. We are here if you guys have questions. And again, I'll leave you with that number one last time. Area code 813-681-5000. Option 2 is going to get you premium support. You're always welcome to ask for the girl. My name is Maria. I'm the only girl on the phone. So if you ever need me, just reach out. I'm here. Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, buddy. My 7-year-old coworker.
We all have those.
He lasted throughout the whole training silent. It's like he knew he could talk now. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
AscendTMS, the logistics software for everyone. To stay up to date with the latest help videos and tutorials for AscendTMS, click that subscribe button. That way you can always be the first to know.